detox protocols that now there's hundreds of providers, throughout the world that are incorporating. But somebody who's watching this at home right now who said, I've been vaccinated, my kid's been vaccinated.
Right.
I'm relating to what you're saying. What types of actions can they take to try to remedy their situation?
One of the game changers for me, if you understand, when I started researching the cell membrane, it's so many things happen. The cell membrane is key. I think Bruce Lipton really identified that life happens on the membrane.
Right.
Everything happens on the membrane. The intelligence resides in this membrane.
There's a brain in the membrane.
There's a brain in the membrane, right?
Right.
If you understand, I don't want to bore people with too much science, but it's literally how our nerve system comes from a membrane, right? And therein lies the intelligence. But that membrane allows the good stuff into the cell, but it also, when it's functioning properly, allows the toxins to come out. When that gets compromised, I think most people watching this heard inflammation is the cause of everything, right? But we're talking about not inflammation of your sore shoulder, but inflammation of every cell. That membrane becomes inflamed. Now it doesn't function the way it should. Bad genes get turned on. To turn them off, we have to fix the membrane.
Right.
Bruce Lipton, that's a lot of his work.
Right.
To detox, if you don't fix that membrane, the cell doesn't detox. So I developed something called my 5 R's of how to fix a cell. It became a roadmap that I teach practitioners on what to do to fix a cell. R number 2 is regenerating that cell membrane. Fats are key. Everybody should be paying attention to fats. When I started increasing fats in my diet, even real butter, grass-fed butter, arachidonic acid is a fat that I think most people would think, that's a bad one, right? Well, we know it stabilizes the membrane. So you take something like arachidonic acid, and many parents say are just loading up their child on fish oil. And they're forgetting about, if you don't have enough arachidonic acid, fish oil actually becomes dangerous.
Wow.
So increasing some of these fats from grass-fed meats and actually butter can be really a game changer. Today, what we have happening in the autistic world, and even the general population that eats healthy, they're taking fish oils and they're actually creating something called omega-3 dominance. So imagine. So we're doing a few things wrong here. Like everyone's taking probiotic, the same bacteria, creating dysbiosis. Everybody's taking fish oils, thinking this is great, creating something called omega-3 dominance. So the point is that increase your good fats. Don't be afraid of the saturated fats. They help stabilize the membrane too. Cholesterol. Right. There's a fat that people fear, I would think.
Many times practitioners give drugs to try to inhibit the production of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So these fats, from real foods, grass-fed foods, grass-fed butters, fantastic. I'm not against, fish oil, but I like it in fish.
Yeah.
And if you get a fish oil, be selective. And we rotate those in. We don't keep people on them, because we're searching for certain, ratios. So, diet does play a role. Even putting people into ketosis is key. We know ketones are, by the way, they're a product of fat metabolism. So as you break fat down, you make something called ketones. They change the brain. They can heal the brain. That's what the science shows. They can even turn off bad genes. So changing people and getting their cells to burn fat as a majority energy source is called ketosis. And that can also be a really healing property from those ketones. So there's a couple things right there.
So if I'm a mom, right now, and I want to try to help my kids in this way, one thing I can do is get butter from grass-fed cows.
Absolutely.
Meat from grass-fed cows. And get more natural sources of some of these things like fish oil as compared to having them extracted.
Absolutely.
And put that together, that these can help heal and regenerate and detox.
And don't forget, we like coconut oil, those medium chain fats, olive oils, the mono fat. Get a variety.
Just don't eat the olive oil, though, right? A lot of people make that olive oil.
Over 400, you're damaging. You take a good fat and make it bad. But adding these fats into the diet, it sounds like an obvious thing or a small thing, but it really is key to fixing the membrane and fixing this brain all at the same time.
Anything else that you would give advice to for somebody who's watching, saying, just right in the household, I can kind of do this, which would help?
Well, look, removing source. I said I have 5 R's. Our number one is remove the sources. Obviously, remove the sources from the brain.
So eat non-GMO food, so you're not getting the glyphosate.
Right. But remove the sources from your life.
Right.
Look at the cleaning supplies that you're using. It's so easy to do it natural these days. I mean, you can make your own, for goodness sake. But, eating organic, especially in things like grains, if you're going to eat grains, because they're sprayed with that glyphosate. All the grains are sprayed, unless you're 100% grain. By the way, taking grains away is another good tip, because a fast way to downregulate cellular inflammation is to control glucose and insulin. Taking grains away actually can do that faster, believe it or not, even than sugar. It just seems to take more of the inflammation out faster. You should take sugars away too, processed sugar. But grains have a big impact because there's a lot of things in grains, not just gluten, that is leaking across a leaky gut that is driving inflammation and autoimmune.
Well, I think those are some great advice, and I'm sure people can search online about getting deeper into some of these things. But like you said, removing things that are facilitating the problems that you have, and adding some things like healthy fats could make a big difference in people's lives. I know this hits home personally. I know that you actually even adopted kids into your home that were vaccine damaged and had to deal with that. Can you talk about Dylan's story a bit?
Yeah, I said it's from pain to purpose, and most people would say, "Oh, your story," but it goes beyond my story. Believe me. My wife had lead toxicity, and I don't even have time for that story, but she was going to end up just like her mother with breast cancer and ended up dying of uterine cancer because her hormones got disrupted from her high lead levels. So that's one story. But another story is we had a tragedy in our family. Marilee, that's my wife, her cousin Lisa, they were best friends. And they had boy and a girl, 7-year-old twins at the time. And they tragically died. And we ended up with the 7-year-olds. And we adopted them. It's a whole other story within that story, of trauma. But he was vaccine damaged, and we saw it happening before.
He was Dylan?
Yeah, Dylan. So even at his first vaccines, she said there were certain reactions, and in the next round it was worse. And I literally sat before the father, and I had him convinced not to vaccinate again because this time I felt like it was going to send him over the edge, and it did. Asperger's, sensory integration. And that was around age 4 that it really tipped. And we ended up with the kids at age 7. So what I was trying to get her to do to help detox him, I ended up having to do. So it wasn't long after I got my life back, literally, that we ended up having the kids come in. So here I am thinking, I'm better and all these great things. And then we get 2 kids. Now, hold on. We just had a brand new baby, 6 weeks old. Wow. So I went from 2 kids, when I was sick, 6-week-old baby, life's good, and then we got 2 more. So I went from 2 kids to 5 in 6 weeks. I wasn't completely well yet, but it's an amazing story really because I took what applied to me, getting my life back, to Dylan. He was my second patient, and if you met Dylan today, he's 20. You would never know. Wow. You would never know, and you met him. Yeah, exactly. So that's from pain to purpose.
It's interesting. I heard you say one time that a lot of times you don't see the immediate reactions of the vaccines, and over time,
that's right.
And in boys and girls, the reaction times might be somewhat different.
Absolutely.
How do you see that?
Yeah, I said there was twins, a boy and a girl. I wonder how many people caught that, right?
Yeah.
What happened to the girl?
Yeah.
She seemed fine until she got to a teenager. And then she started developing sensory integration. She started developing an increase in pain, appeared like fibromyalgia, fatigue, some other symptoms like even increase in smell and taste. And all of a sudden, life dropped out. Ironically enough, I told you I was interviewing her on a TV show that I do, and she told the story, and even I was like, oh gosh, yeah, I forgot. She started doing true cellular detox and getting it out, and now she told the story of how she came out of that. But point is that boys, testosterone actually has an amplifying effect to these neurotoxins like mercury and aluminum, and estrogen has a protective effect. But again, just like I said with autoimmune and other conditions, you may think you dodged the bullet until later. That's Olivia's story. So that hits home. So people watching this, just because you'd end up on the autism spectrum doesn't mean you're clear.
Wow, and there's one other caveat is that if you think about what the typical process is, let's say you have that girl who was later that things started to show up that didn't seem to make sense. You take them to a traditional allopathic physician who's going to say, well, we can start giving these varying medications to try to mask these symptoms or try to make these symptoms more palatable. And that's additional toxins coming in through the medications. That's actually perpetuating or making things worse as compared to resolving it. But nobody would ever connect vaccines from a long time ago, from years ago, to what's being experienced today.
They wouldn't. You love philosophy. Olivia said something in the interview today. She said, before age 7, she took tons of antibiotics, her and her brother, right? After age 7, they end up in our home. She said, I haven't taken an antibiotic since. I've had strep throats, I've had earaches. And I thought, yeah, that's a great point. My biological children have never taken an antibiotic ever. They have never taken a drug. And nor has she and Dylan since they got in my house. So what changed?
Yeah.
The philosophy.
That's right.
We live our life from a different philosophy, right? She lives her life from a different philosophy. When she said it, I got goosebumps, man, and teary-eyed because it's like, that's it. The philosophy changed our world. It changed her world. She's not going to end up in the autoimmune, but she would have for the reason you said.
Well, on a philosophical note, I think we can leave it at that. Thanks so much for the work you do, and thanks for sharing your wisdom with us.
Absolutely. You're welcome.
My goodness, what a journey we have been on. Yep. We just completed episode 9 of our 9-episode series. I really appreciate you engaging in this. I think this information is vital. This, for me personally, has been a passion project like nothing I've done in decades. I have seen the impact of vaccines. I have been appalled by the lies and fraud and corruption. And along this journey, through all these interviews, with all these episodes, I've traveled all around the world to meet people who are engaged in this issue, who are intelligent, who are caring, who are loving, who want to see justice done relative to vaccines. You've seen multiple movies. You've seen the greatest array of experts in the history of the vaccine movement pulled together in one place and presented over these 9 days. Now, we have this content available for you, and during the course of this event, it is at half price, so time is running out right now for you to choose either a gold or a silver package. See what fits for you. We made this extraordinarily affordable. Help us support this movement. You and I together can make a difference in the world, can save a lot of kids, can help kids who've been damaged, can give hope to parents who have had the unfortunate circumstance of having a vaccine-injured child. We can get the truth out there to the world. And we know that there is a lot of adversity when that happens, but armed with this content, you have the power to go and make a difference. So please, choose the package that's best for you, gold or silver. It's all right here on the page. You can look at what's there, and then you can move forward with this information in a very powerful way and make a difference. Again, thank you so much for taking this journey. It's been quite an extensive and amazing and invigorating journey. I want to leave you with a message of hope here. It is very tragic what's happened relative to vaccines, what's happened to people. But ultimately, there's hope for the future because the truth is what sets us all free. This truth must be known. This truth must be exposed. This truth must get into the world so that what's happened to people in the past that's been horrific will not happen to people in the future. Thank you for joining me.
Okay, we're done.